Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Short Story Time Theater with William Baxter. That's me. Tonight's story is a recent short story I wrote, a children's book, The Day Mr. Wiggles Came into the Classroom. It was on an autumn Friday afternoon in Waldoville, Oregon, during November 1963. School was about to let out for the weekend at Waldoville Elementary School. Miss Felicity Regans, who was teaching second grade that year, had arranged to have refreshments for her second grade children toward the end of the school day before the school let out for the weekend. Miss Regans ordered popsicles from Mr. Wiggles' popsicle shop near Town Square. Mr. Seymour Wiggles loaded his company truck with popsicles for Miss Regan's class. He got in the truck and headed for Waldoville Elementary School. Seymour Wiggles turned on the radio to listen to the news, and he heard some very shocking news which happened in Texas. Meanwhile, back at the school, in Miss Regan's classroom, the teacher was finishing up a history lesson. The children were all looking forward to the weekend, especially since holiday season was quickly approaching. They were also looking forward to the treats they would be getting from Mr. Wiggles' popsicle shop. Then Mr. Wiggles came into the classroom with tears streaming down his cheeks. "What's the matter, Seymour?" Miss Regans asked Mr. Wiggles. He answered the teacher, and soon Miss Regans was also in tears. Children in Waldoville loved Mr. Wiggles' popsicle shop and visited there to get popsicles quite often on the weekend. Mr. Wiggles, however, announced that his popsicle shop would be closed for the weekend. At first, the children did not want to let that spoil their weekend, which they were so looking forward to. Finally, the school bell rang and school was out for the weekend. The children boarded the bus, unaware of things that were going to happen during the next week or so. While the school bus was transporting the children to their homes, the kids happened to notice that the U.S. flag in front of the town courthouse and the post office were flying at half mast. Mrs. Jane Donovan, the school bus driver, said to all the kids on the bus, "Children, you will be seeing U.S. flags flying like that in town here for the next several days. You probably won't be able to watch Friday night and Saturday morning cartoons over the weekend because all TV shows will be preempted by the news for a week or more." Soon Mrs. Donovan pulled over to the first stop, and Ronnie Throckmorton, one of the second grade students in Miss Regan's class, got off the bus with his older brother Gus, a fourth grader. As Ronnie and Gus made their way to their house, Ronnie asked Gus, "Do you think everything will be like the school bus driver said?" Gus replied, "Let's wait and see, little brother, but I wouldn't count on watching cartoons or Winchell Mahoney time for the next few days." Soon Ronnie and Gus arrived home at their home on Olive Grove Street, When the kids walked through the front door, they saw that afternoon shows had been preempted by the news. They saw footage of flags being flown at half mast all over the country in several states and cities. The news remained on in preempting other shows clear into late Friday night when Ronnie and Gus went to bed, hoping that Saturday morning wouldn't be so bad. Ronnie and Gus got up around 7 a.m. on Saturday morning, and they went into the living room and turned on the TV to see if their favorite TV show, Winchell Mahoney Time, was on. But everything was still preempted by the news. Winchell Mahoney Time, which starred Paul Winchell and two ventriloquist dummies by the names of Jerry Mahoney and Knucklehead Smith, was a very popular kids show in the early mid 1960s and had replaced Howdy Doody from the 1950s. Jerry Mahoney and Knucklehead Smith were later versions of Charlie McCarthy and Mortimer Snerd. Gus and Ronnie's mother came into the living room and said, "Now, children, you won't be able to see Winchell Mahoney Time for at least a week." Gus replied, "Our school bus driver told us that, but we just wanted to see if it would be on today anyway." "I'm afraid not," said Gus and Ronnie's mom. "This is a terrible thing that has happened to our country and the world yesterday." Now, there were lots of kids who played in the neighborhood on Olive Grove Street every Saturday and Sunday after church. But on that weekend, the neighborhood was like a ghost town. There wasn't a kid out playing anywhere to be seen. Town Square in Waldoville was pretty much the same way. There was hardly a soul seen anywhere. Town Square was pretty busy on the weekends, but the downtown district wasn't busy at all that weekend or for the week to come. It too was like it had become a ghost town. Mr. Wiggles reopened his popsicle shop the following Tuesday, but he hardly got any business for days. Even the children of Waldoville didn't come into Seymour Wiggles' shop. There was a shroud of gloom which filled the air throughout the entire town of Waldoville. Ronnie, Gus, and all the other children in town never felt gloominess like they felt that particular week. Everyone in town felt down in the mouth all week. This didn't just happen in Waldoville, Oregon, however. All of this was happening in cities and states throughout the United States too, and it all started that fateful day on November 22nd, 1963, when Mr. Wiggles came into the classroom and told the class and Miss Regans that the President of the United States, John F. Kennedy, had been shot. And now we move into the epilogue. On that fateful afternoon of Friday, November 22nd, 1963, while John and Jacqueline Kennedy were riding in the back seat of a 1961 Lincoln convertible traveling down Elm Street near Dealey Plaza in Dallas, Texas, gunshots came from the rifle of Lee Harvey Oswald in a window. That same Sunday, Lee Harvey Oswald was shot and killed by Jack Ruby. And some closing remarks from the author, which is me. I was at Loera Elementary School in Anaheim, California in November, only 9 years old. A short while before school about to let out for the weekend, a teacher from the classroom next to mine came into our classroom and told my teacher that President Kennedy had been shot. For an entire week after the assassination of John F. Kennedy, things were pretty much like described in this story. Flags were at half mast, the streets were like a ghost town, TV shows were preempted, and there was gloom in the air everywhere. All this gloom was an entire world in mourning. As we moved into Thanksgiving 1963 and the holiday season, things began to go back to normal. The end. Thank you for joining me on Short Story Time Theater with William Baxter, me. And I will be back later with another story. In the meantime, you all have a good evening and good night.